Rene, great to have you with us. I know you've just released a report on the logistics sector. Was there anything in terms of, I guess, the availability of employees and those kinds of things? Because that's certainly been a growing trend that we've been looking at here in terms of the news flow, Rene, that sort of focus on trying to find the locations with the right employees.
Oh, no, 100% correct. And we see that although there are migrants coming, let's say also from the Ukraine into the Czech Republic, or I know even a company who has people from Nepal working in their Central and Eastern European warehouse. But logistics, let's say, finding the right workforce is very important. We actually developed a specific tool to assess the potential of the labor markets in various countries to be sure that if you go there, that you can find the right people, not only for now, but also for the next coming years. We call that ideal in-depth labor market assessment. And it's really having the right impression of what the labor market can promise for you. But you're 100% right. One of the things we also see, Richard, it's perhaps interesting to share, is that it gives also a different perspective to the automation and robotization case. Now, previously, what you had was that you said, okay, I have here a robot, and the robot cost me 2 million euros. And the robot replaces 6 people who are doing the task the robot is going to do. And then you had a kind of discussion between capex and opex. Okay, I have 2 million. On the one hand, I have to write that off. And on the other hand, I have the salaries for 5 years of those 6 people. And then you make the comparison. But if you have now not those people available, then the question is, hey, should we not take a more strategic view to automation and robotization? Because now it's going on it has a substantial influence on revenues and also on profit. So it's not about capex, opex anymore. I know a company, it's an assembly operation, and they need 135 people, let's say, to run according to schedule. And they miss every day 42 people. So 42 on the 135. That means it has really an impact on what the performance is of that operation, on the revenues you can get out of the 135, because you don't get them because there are only 90 people available every day. And that discussion on the strategic view to automation and robotization, that will come, even if we know that in many logistics operations, you have only a contract duration of 3 years or so, which makes the capex opex discussion already always difficult. But if you don't have the people anymore, or you can automate and use those 6 people in my example in another part of your logistics operations, then it makes sense again. So my expectation is that we will have this year for logistics companies or manufacturers who want to set up a logistics operation or an e-commerce operation, that discussion will go on there. And it's also an interesting challenge, by the way, for logistics real estate investors, because can you develop something like robot as a service so that you include it in the rents or the leases of your buildings, that you include their capital investments, but that you put them more in as an addition, an add-on to the lease, then that the company, the tenant, really has to invest it in the robotization and the automation themselves. So that whole labor market issue is not only a headache for the tenants of logistics buildings. It changes the business case for automation and robotization, but you could also imagine that it changes the way how logistics real estate investors look at that topic and see how they can support their tenants by co-investing in automation and robotization, find financial ways to put it as a service so that it's just an add-on to the lease instead of the tenant. So the labor market challenges will have a substantial impact on the whole logistics real estate the next years, because we saw now an economic recovery which was really the V curve. Now we see all over Europe and all over the US, we see that the recovery is coming fast. In December 2019, before COVID-19 started, we were looking already, it is becoming more difficult because midterm, we see an aging of the working population in Europe. So we know that already that issue, which we put aside because we were so hooked up with the COVID-19 measures. But the labor market challenge is not something which will fade away. So it's something which will be substantial, and it will be a major challenge for companies the next 10 years. If you think about the aging of the working population, don't forget, in 2030, 42% of the European inhabitants will live in a region where the labor market decreases. So that puts massive challenges for the logistics real estate industry as well.
Yeah, really interesting to see how that robotics side and also the challenges there in terms of employees are going to influence the sector going forward. Thanks very much for joining us, Rene.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you, Richard.